We're back at it again with another random Mario Kart ranking. But this time we're taking from Makostra's comment, where he gives me the idea of ranking the most forgettable tracks in each Mario Kart game. When it comes to the most forgettable track in a Mario Kart game, honestly, it's really up to personal preference on what you consider the most forgettable track, because me, I followed the Mario Kart series pretty religiously, so for me personally, it was really hard to come up with this list, but looking at each of the mainline games outside of Mario Kart World, because the game hasn't come out yet, I can't really say what's the most forgettable track because I haven't played them yet. The 9 I came up with for today are what I feel are the most forgettable, in my opinion. With that being said, I'm the biggest nub on YouTube, Christendo, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel as it helps me out a ton. Last video, we got a total of 31 new subscribers to the channel, so let's see if we can top that with this one. While you're at it, if you want to talk to me and others about all things Nintendo, consider joining the Chris Discord server. The link is down in the description. Now again, I just want to make it really clear before we get into this, the 9 tracks I chose today aren't necessarily the most forgettable in the franchise, but more so what I think are the most forgettable from their respective games. With that being said though, let's start off with Super Mario Kart, and the track I chose for this one is Ghost Valley 3. I feel like that out of all of the track themes in Super Mario Kart, the Ghost Valley tracks are the most forgettable because they're literally just boardwalks on a black void with 90-degree turns, and if you want 90-degree turns, you already have the Bowser Castle tracks, so just another track theme that has 90-degree turns is just kind of redundant. I chose 3, however, because while 1 and 2 aren't super memorable themselves, the third variant I feel like is probably the most forgettable, because at least with 1, I'm pretty sure it was in Mario Kart Tour, and with 2, it was in Mario Kart Wii and maybe Mario Kart Tour, but with 3, it literally has just appeared in Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart Super Circuit. Track-wise, this track isn't super interesting. Like I said, it is just a bunch of 90-degree turns. There is a couple of holes in the boardwalk here and there, which kind of make it a challenge, but overall, the track layout isn't super great for this one. It is just a bunch of 90-degree turns with a couple of holes in the ground, and that's about it. So you know what? Just like most Super Mario Kart tracks, I think that this is a D tier. From Mario Kart 64 now, we have DK's Jungle Parkway, and I don't think that this one is necessarily super forgettable per se, but when it comes to all the tracks in the game, I'm able to kind of point out most of them and be like, yeah, this is Sherbet Land, this is Frappe Snowland, this is Moo Moo Farm. But when it comes to DK Jungle Parkway, if it wasn't for the fact that this was in Mario Kart Wii, honestly, I probably would have forgotten that this exists completely. Track-wise, this one is pretty decent. It's not the best thing ever, though. I mean, the things that are most memorable about this one is that in the original, there are guys that are throwing coconuts at you if you go off-road. And then there's that big jump that you had to, like, break and then turn in order to continue with the race. But it really isn't a super interesting track, but it's decent enough, I'd say. I think that DK Jungle Parkway is a B-tier track. Moving into the Mario Kart Super Circuit now, I chose Cheap Island. Honestly, I can't really tell you much about this track, because when it comes to the 2, I guess, beach-themed tracks in this game, I remember Shy Guy Beach a lot more because that was a Mario Kart Wii, and even though it was a pretty bad track in there, it was at least a Mario Kart Wii, so I remember it for that reason alone. But when it comes to Cheap Beach, all I remember is, like, there's a boardwalk that you drive on, and like in the background there's a fish that jumps here and there, but outside of that, I don't really remember much about this track. It's another pretty forgettable one. I don't think it's a bad track, though. I mean, at least compared to Super Mario Kart, the track themes in this game are a lot more unique, but overall, I really don't remember anything about Cheap Island, which is why I chose it as the most forgettable track in Mario Kart Super Circuit. So, because I really don't remember anything about it, I'm sure it's a decent enough track. I know it appeared in Mario Kart Tour, and even there, I don't remember what it's like. I'm just going to put it in the C tier just to be safe. Moving into Mario Kart Double Dash now, honestly, when it came to the most forgettable tracks with the games from here on out, it was kind of hard to choose because Mario Kart Double Dash has a pretty consistent track lineup. I chose Dry Desert here, though, just because it is a normal desert track. Doesn't mean it's bad. It has a couple interesting things going for it. It has the Pokies that fold down, I guess you could say, or make an arch that have the item boxes in it. It has that giant piranha plant that eats you if you go into that sinkhole, and then it also has the tornado that goes throughout the track, but outside of that, there's just more interesting desert tracks in the Mario Kart series. I never was really a fan of this one. It was a fine enough track in Double Dash, but I'm just always happy to get past it when I replay Double Dash. And like I said, it's a desert track. Thematically, it is pretty boring. I think that this also belongs in the C tier, but I'm going to put it above Cheap Island because at least I remember stuff about this track, whereas with Cheap Island, there's not really much I remember about it. Next up is Mario Kart DS, and when it came to those tracks, I grew up with Mario Kart DS, so I pretty much know all the tracks by heart, But when it comes to the most forgettable, I chose Yoshi's Island. I mean, yes, it was also in Mario Kart Wii, so a lot of people grew up with this track, if not in Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart Wii, but at the same time, it's just very forgettable. I mean, the only things that really make this one stand out are the waterfalls that push item boxes and push you if you go on them that could cause you to fall off the track. But outside of that, it's literally just kind of an oval with a giant Yoshi egg in the middle, so it's not super crazy. I don't know, as someone that grew up with Mario Kart DS, this one just isn't super memorable for me. I mean, yeah, Figure 8 Circuit isn't memorable, but it's memorable enough for being one of the worst tracks in the Mario Kart series. But this one, it's bad, it's boring, and there's just not much going for it. Honestly, if I'm looking at it from a track standpoint, like I said, it's a pretty bad track in my opinion. There's some people that like it because, oh, it has a pretty fun theme where it has waterfalls and it's Yoshi themed, but it's like, that's all it has going for it. All it has going for it is waterfalls, and if you want a waterfall track, there's Shy Guy Falls in Mario Kart 8. I'm gonna put this in the D tier. Honestly, I think I might even put it behind Ghost Valley 3, because at least that one has a bit of challenge to it, even if it's not a super interesting track. But Yoshi Falls is honestly just probably one of my least favorite tracks in the Mario Kart series. Enough said. My pick for Mario Kart Wii might be a little bit of an interesting one, but honestly, when it comes to the Nitro tracks in Mario Kart Wii, I think that all of them are really memorable, but the one that kind of came to mind to me when it comes to the most forgettable, if you even want to say that, is Daisy Circuit. Because it's kind of surrounded by a bunch of really good tracks, because if I'm not mistaken, it's the beginning of the Star Cup, which has Grumble Volcano, Maple Treeway, and Koopa Cape, which are all really great tracks, and I think it also follows like DK Summit, Wario's Gold Mine, and Coconut Mall that were in the Flower Cup. So just placing this track in the middle of really good tracks really make people overlook this one, which is why I think it's one of the more forgettable tracks in Mario Kart Wii. As a track though, I really like this one. I really like the theme of it. It takes place in a town at sunset and it looks really nice. It doesn't feel like a circuit track, even if it has the circuit track name. And just overall, I just think that this track is well designed. It just has fun turns. It just has a fun layout. Like, there's not really much to say about Daisy Circuit. It's Daisy Circuit. But even then, honestly, I think that this is probably like one of the most underrated tracks in Mario Kart Wii. It appeared in the Booster Course Pass, which made people appreciate it a bit more, but even outside of that, I think that this track is just one of the most overlooked in Mario Kart Wii. And even though it is overlooked, it's still a really solid track. Because of the fact that it is, in my opinion, a pretty good track, I think that Daisy Circuit belongs in the A tier. My pick for Mario Kart 7 is, to no one's surprise, probably Cheep Cheep Lagoon. And this track is just really boring. All it has going for it is kind of showcasing the underwater driving in Mario Kart 7, and even then it's just kind of a boring track to do it with. I mean, it's just a really standard underwater track, and there's just not much else going on there. The only part that really stands out about this track to me is the cave section where you're able to drive in the water and just also completely avoid the water, which is pretty funny. But even then, like, this track just isn't super great. It's not memorable in the slightest. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. I think I'm gonna put it below Dry Dry Desert and in front of Cheep Cheep Island, because I think that Dry Dry Desert has a bit more going for it. It has more of an identity, and I do remember this track a bit more than Cheep Cheep Island, which is why it gets the edge over that. On the same topic of Mario Kart 7, I think that Mario Kart 8's pick is going to come to no one's surprise, because there's a lot of pretty good tracks in Mario Kart 8, but when it comes to the most forgettable, I think that Bone Dry Dunes is honestly probably amongst the most forgettable tracks, just in the entire Mario Kart series. It's another desert track, which doesn't help it out, because there's just so many of those in the series already, and it doesn't really do anything to make it stand out amongst all the desert tracks, because sure, it has kind of like a Dry Bones and Dry Bowser theming, which makes it kind of unique, I guess, and also is like a more mesa-like desert rather than your more like tan desert, which makes it also kind of stand out. But track-wise and layout-wise, there's just not much going on here. It really is just kind of a boring track. Because of that, I think it is pretty forgettable. In terms of where I would put it in this ranking, I think it's in the C tier. I prefer Dry Dry Desert over it a ton, because at least that one has an identity, even though it is a desert track. Honestly, I think I'm going to put it at the tail end of the C tier. I think that Cheep Cheep Island, even though I don't remember it super much, it has a bit more identity than this one. And I feel that the only reason I know Bone Dry Dunes more than this track is because we've been playing Mario Kart 8 for the last 10 years. So I've been playing this track for 10 years at this point. But even then, I think at the end of the C tier behind Cheep Cheep Island is a good place for it. Because I'm sure if I replayed Mario Kart Super Circuit and played Cheep Cheep Island, I would appreciate that track more than I do with Bone Dry Dunes. And then for our final track in this video, we have a track from Mario Kart Tour. And honestly, I feel like you could just choose most of the city tracks from Mario Kart Tour, as the representative here, because at least all the Nitro tracks, while some being kind of bad like Sky High Sunday, they're still pretty unique and they're not forgettable, I feel. But when it comes to the city tracks, they all kind of blend together. But for this pick, I just chose Bangkok Rush because I just feel like there's just not much going for it. When it comes to this track, the only thing I really remember about it is bouncing on top of those tents, and that's about it. It's not a bad track per se. I think it's a fine enough track, and I'm sure it represents Bangkok pretty well. It's just probably one of the more forgettable tracks, because I was honestly thinking this or Amsterdam Drift, but then I remember that Amsterdam Drift had the waterways, which makes it a bit more unique. So I think that out of all of the tracks in Mario Kart Tour, Bangkok Rush is probably the most forgettable. Again, it's not a bad track though. I think that layout-wise, while being confusing, especially in the Mario Kart 8 version, it's still a pretty decently designed track. I think that this belongs in the C tier. I'm gonna put it between Dry Dry Desert and Cheap Cheap Lagoon, because I feel like that this track at least is a bit more interesting than Cheap Cheap Lagoon, but at the end of the day, I think that Dry Dry Desert is just a bit of a better track. And with that, that's my ranking of all the most forgettable tracks in Mario Kart. Remember, this is just what I consider as the most forgettable track in each of the games. It doesn't mean that these are for sure the most forgettable tracks. I'm sure that your list would look different than mine does. But with that, let me know what you think are the most forgettable tracks in every Mario Kart game. I'm interested to see if there's any tracks that are different from mine, or if the general consensus is along the same lines as mine. With that being said though, that's all I have for this one, but if you want to see another video by me, there's a video on screen now where I go over 15 characters we need in Mario Kart World, and I think you'll enjoy that one. With that being said, I'm the biggest nub on YouTube, Chris Tando, signing off, and as always, goodbye, Nub Nation.